Kira slammed her elbow into my cup. Coffee leapt. Heat spread across my blouse. The room went quiet for half a beat, then filled with little sounds forks, stopping chairs, shifting someone, letting out a short laugh they didn't bother to hide. "Oh my God," Kira said, not reaching for a napkin. She smiled like it was cute. "You're always in the way." I stood there, sticky and damp, holding my empty mug by the handle like it had betrayed me. My breath caught hard in my throat. Not from the heat, from the eyes. Evan didn't move. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't tell her to stop. He leaned back in his booth like he belonged there, and I didn't. "Mom," he said loud enough for the whole table don't start. "You always make things dramatic." A couple of Evan's friends snorted. I recognized two neighbors from down the street. One of them gave me that tight smile people use when they're glad it isn't happening to them. A man in a crisp shirt, someone I'd never met, watched me like I was a detail in a story Evan was telling. I reached for a napkin. My fingers pinched it too hard. It tore. I folded what was left and dabbed at my blouse anyway. Slow circles, slow breathing, slow movements. I kept my eyes down because I knew what they wanted. A raised voice. A scene. Proof. Kira pushed her hair behind her ear and didn't look away. "You should have worn something darker," she said, or just sat down and stayed quiet. I glanced toward the chair I'd expected to take. It wasn't there. Someone had slid it away like it was an accident. Like I was the kind of person you could remove without anyone asking why. I didn't ask for it back. I set the mug down on the table edge and straightened my shoulders. My skin felt cold where the coffee had soaked through. My heart beat hard in my wrists. I kept my hands still. "Hi," I said, because that was all I could trust my voice to do. Evan's face stayed smooth. He lifted his glass. "See? This is what I mean," he told the others like I wasn't standing there. Kira leaned closer to him, then looked past me toward the entrance already bored. Evan lowered his voice, but I was close enough to hear it anyway. After today, he murmured to her, "We'll handle her deposits. She won't fight." The words landed clean. No anger, no heat, just a plan spoken like a schedule. I nodded once as if I hadn't heard a thing and reached for my purse. The floor felt unsteady for a second. I corrected it with one careful step. I walked to the register, paid for my own meal, even though I hadn't touched it, and left without looking back. Outside, the air bit my wet blouse. I got into my car, closed the door, and sat there long enough for my hands to stop shaking. Then I started the engine and drove straight to the bank. I pulled into my driveway and killed the engine. My blouse still smelled like coffee. My skin still felt wrong under it, like I couldn't wash the day off. I sat for a second with my hands on the wheel, staring at my porch. Light telling my body to unclench. Headlights swung across the yard. A car rolled up behind me. Familiar shape, familiar impatience. Evan parked like he owned the place. Before I could even step out, his door opened. Then Kira's. Then the trunk. 2 suitcases hit the ground with a heavy thud. Wheels scraped my driveway. Kira didn't struggle with them. She let the handles drag loud and deliberate like an announcement. I shut my door and walked to the porch. Every step felt too calm, too controlled. Like my body had decided the crying part would be later. Evan reached my steps first. He didn't hug me. He didn't ask about my blouse. He didn't even look at my face long enough to pretend. "If I'm your son," he said, "I deserve my share." He spoke like he'd practiced it, like he'd said it in the mirror and liked how it sounded. "You have money," he continued. "You have a house, so we'll manage it. From now on, we're living here." Kira stood one step behind him, chin lifted, arms crossed. Not nervous, not embarrassed. Ready. My hand found the doorknob. It shook once, just once. Then I tightened my grip until it stopped. I smiled, but only with my lips. My cheeks didn't move. "Come in," I said. Kira didn't wait for a second invitation. She brushed past me, shoes clicking on the wood, like she was walking into a place she'd already measured. Her eyes moved fast, walls, furniture, windows, the shape of the room. She didn't see me. She saw square footage. Evan rolled the suitcases inside and pointed down the hall. "Guest room," he said. "We'll take that for now. For now." Like there was a later he hadn't told me yet. Kira stopped near the bookshelf and ran her finger along the edge of a framed photo. Dust caught on her nail. She flicked it off like the house itself was dirty. "Where do you keep your paperwork?" she asked. "Too light, too casual. Deeds, accounts, all that." The words came out clean. Scripted. Like she'd been assigned that line. I looked at her hand on my frame. I looked at Evan's suitcase wheels on my floor. I looked at the hallway, where my table sat, where my chair waited, where I used to drink my coffee in peace. "I'll make coffee," I said, because it gave me something to do with my hands. Evan followed me with his eyes. "We should talk tonight." "We'll talk in the morning," I said. My voice stayed steady. My body didn't. I brewed the coffee, poured 3 cups, and set them down like I was hosting strangers. When they finally went to the guest room, I rinsed my mug until the ceramic squeaked under my thumb. Then I locked my bedroom door and lay down with my phone pressed to my chest like a weight I couldn't set down, listening to the suitcases rolling across my hallway. I walked into my kitchen and stopped cold. Paper stared back at me from my refrigerator door. 4 sheets. Thick marker. Big letters like a warning sign. Meal times. Quiet hours. Shared space. No unnecessary spending. Kira had even underlined the last one twice. She stood at my counter with my coffee scoop in her hand, measuring like she'd lived there for years. Evan sat at my table with his phone face up, scrolling with the calm of a man who had decided the room belonged to him. "Good," Kira said, without looking at me. "You saw it." I didn't speak. My mouth felt dry. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator. I could hear the soft scrape of a chair leg. I turned my head. My chair wasn't where it had always been. They'd pushed it to the corner like it was extra, like it was clutter. Evan's chair was pulled out at the head of the table, angled slightly, claiming space. He glanced at the corner seat and gave a little shrug. "It just makes sense," he said. "We need structure. You have money now. You can't live like you used to. Like I'd been careless. Like I'd been reckless. Like the problem was me and not the people who had rolled suitcases into my hallway and started issuing rules." Kira opened one of my cabinets, took out my plates, moved them to a lower shelf. She did it fast. Efficient. A small takeover disguised as tidying. I stared at that corner chair for 1 extra second. My throat tightened like someone had pressed a thumb there. I forced myself to swallow without sound. No sigh, no protest. Nothing for them to feed on. I crossed to the coffee maker. I grabbed my mug. The same chipped one I'd used for years. I poured coffee and held the handle with both hands until the tremor in my fingers settled. Kira watched me over her shoulder. "We're just helping," she said. "You'll thank us later." Evan didn't move. He didn't tell her to stop. He didn't ask if I wanted help. He just nodded like it was a business plan. The morning crawled. Kira wiped counters that weren't dirty. Evan walked the house like he was assessing repairs. Every time I opened a drawer, I felt her eyes. Every time I stepped into a room, I heard the soft click of his phone screen. Around noon, the mail slot snapped. I moved toward it instinctive like I always did. Evan beat me there. He scooped the envelopes up before they hit the floor and flipped through them with his thumb. White paper, logos, a bank envelope. He lifted his phone. I saw the flash of the camera. "Evan," I said, and my voice came out thin. He didn't look guilty. He looked annoyed, like I'd interrupted something important. "Just keeping track," he said. "You forget things." I took the envelopes from his hand one by one, slow. I didn't yank. I didn't snatch. My fingertips brushed his, and I felt the exact moment he decided that even my mail was a negotiation now. I walked to my room and shut the door. I sat on the edge of my bed, with the envelopes on my lap, breathing in through my nose, out through my mouth, counting until my pulse stopped pounding in my ears. Then my phone rang, a number I recognized. My bank. I answered, and a calm voice said, "Ms. Kessler, this is a courtesy call from our fraud department. Did you authorize a request for account access today?" I sat up straight and said, "No." The woman on the line didn't sound surprised. She sounded trained. "Thank you," she said. "We flagged an attempt to add a new authorized user and initiate online access changes. We won't proceed without your confirmation. Would you like us to place additional security on the account?" "Yes," I said. The word came out clean. "Put a note. Put a hold. Whatever you need. We can add verbal passcodes and require in-person verification for major changes," she offered. "Do it," I said. My fingers gripped the edge of the envelope on my lap until the paper bent. When I ended the call, my bedroom felt too quiet. I could hear Kira moving dishes in the kitchen, making noise on purpose. I slid the bank envelope into a drawer and walked out. Evan was waiting at the table like he'd been waiting for a verdict. "Who was that?" he asked. "Spam," I said. He didn't believe me. He didn't have to. He just watched my face like he was looking for a crack. Kira stepped in with a folder tucked under her arm. She set it on the table with a soft thud, neat and confident, like she'd done it before. "Let's make this easy," she said. "Paperwork. Nothing dramatic." Evan leaned forward and held out his hand. "Give me your phone," he said. "We'll set up your financial app correctly. You're not used to this stuff." I kept my hands on my mug. Coffee, warm. "Something real. I can handle my phone," I said. Evan's smile tightened. "Mom, don't be difficult." Kira flipped the folder open. Forms. Signature lines. Blank spaces where my name would go. She tapped one page with her nail. "It's just to help you," she said. "An authorization. A power of attorney. Simple. Power of attorney." The phrase hit like a shove. Not because I didn't know what it meant, because I knew exactly what it meant. Evan's voice dropped. "If you don't cooperate, people will think you're unstable," he said, like he was doing me a favor. "No one wants that." Kira leaned closer, her tone low enough to feel private, even in my own kitchen. "You're a burden," she said softly, like she was reciting a line she'd practiced in the car. My pulse jumped hard in my wrist. I felt it there, beating against bone. I kept my face calm anyway. I picked up the first page and scanned it like I was considering it, like I was the slow one they thought I was. I read every word. Not because I needed time, because I needed to see how far they were willing to go. When I set the page down, my hands didn't shake. Not much. I gathered the stack, aligned the corners, and folded it once, slow and careful. "I'll sign after I review them," I said. Evan's jaw flexed. Kira's eyes narrowed for one breath, then reset into a smile that didn't touch her face. "Review them," she repeated. "It's standard." "I'll review them," I said again. Kira's phone lit up on the table. Just a preview. One line. "Enough. Get the signatures today. If she refuses, we pivot to incapacity." I didn't react. I didn't blink hard. I didn't let my mouth move. I nodded, once picked up my mug and walked down the hall like I was going to do exactly what they wanted. Then I shut my bedroom door and opened the bottom drawer I hadn't touched in years. I pulled the drawer all the way out. Paper slid forward. Old folders, a spare set of keys, a manila envelope I hadn't touched since I promised myself I would never beg anyone again. I took it anyway. I didn't hesitate. I didn't second guess. I just moved. In the kitchen, I could hear Evan's voice low and irritated. Kira's laugh smaller, sharper. They thought I was in my room reading their forms like a confused old woman. I grabbed my coat. I grabbed my purse. I walked out the back door so I wouldn't have to pass the table. Cold air hit my face and woke me up all the way. I drove fast but clean, hands firm on the wheel, eyes on the road. My heart didn't slow down until I saw the sign for Maris Holt's office and turned into the lot like I'd done it 100 times. Maris met me at the door. No pity, no surprise, just a calm look that said she'd been expecting this moment since the day I first walked into her office. "You're here," she said. "I'm here," I answered, and my voice didn't crack. Her office smelled like paper and coffee. Not sweet, not comforting, real. Maris led me into a small conference room, set 2 cups on the table, and waited until I sat down. I slid the manila envelope toward her. "They came," I said, "with suitcases." Maris didn't flinch. She opened the envelope, skimmed what I'd brought, then looked at me. "Tell me what they asked for," she said. "Control," I said. "My phone, my accounts, a power of attorney." Maris nodded once. "And the bank." I told her about the fraud call. I told her about the attempt to add a user. I told her about the message on Kira's screen incapacity. Maris's pen moved across a legal pad. Short lines. Clean notes. No wasted words. "You did the right thing by not signing," she said. "And by coming here." I held my cup with both hands. The coffee was hot. My palms were cold. "I'm not just lucky," I said quietly. "I didn't get money and leave it sitting out." Maris's eyes stayed on mine. "I know," she said. She opened a folder from her desk, the one with my name printed on the tab. Inside were documents I had signed months ago after I started hearing whispers in town, after I realized wealth doesn't stay private for long. Maris tapped the page that mattered. "Your assets are held in a trust," she said. "Major transfers require dual authorization. Any attempt to coerce, isolate, or claim incapacity triggers a legal firewall. If they push it, becomes documented exploitation." My throat loosened like something had unclenched inside me. I exhaled. Long. Quiet. Like I'd been holding my lungs shut for years. My shoulders dropped. My fingers stopped fidgeting with my car keys. Maris leaned back. "One more thing," she said. "A name came up in my calls last week. Evan's former partner. He's been asking questions." I blinked once. That landed differently, because it meant Evan wasn't just greedy. He was scared. I finished my coffee, set the cup down, and stood up. "Good," I said. "Then we stop this in the open." When I got home, Evan and Kira were still at my table with their papers spread out like a trap, and I smiled at them the same way I smiled at the bank, steady, polite final, and said, "You want to manage things? Fine. Let's do it properly in front of people." I set my purse down and didn't sit. Evan looked up from the papers like he expected me to apologize for leaving. Kira's pen was still in her hand. She had circled places for my signature in dark ink, as if pressure could replace consent. In front of people, Evan repeated, testing the words. "What does that mean?" "It means we stop whispering," I said. "We do it properly. Transparent. Written. No surprises." Kira's smile came fast. Too fast. "Of course," she said. "We're not hiding anything." Evan exhaled, like he'd been holding his temper back. He nodded slow, like he was the one choosing this. "Good," he said. "That's good. I just want to protect you." Protect. The word tasted old. I moved to the kitchen and poured coffee like it was normal. Like there weren't strangers in my house rearranging my life. I carried my mug back and sat, not at the corner, but at the edge of the table, where I could see both of them. My thumb rubbed the rim once. Twice. Again. The ceramic grounded me, kept me from shaking. We'll make a family plan, I said. Budget expenses. Boundaries. We meet with an attorney. We put everything in writing. If you want to help you do it the right way. Evan's face softened into relief. Not relief for me. Relief for himself? He straightened his shoulders, already stepping into a role. Exactly, he said louder than he needed to. That's what I've been saying. I'm not here to take anything. I'm here to make sure you don't get taken advantage of. Kira nodded along, hands folded, now calm and innocent. We're a team, she said. A team. I watched their eyes flick to each other for a split second. Silent communication. Same as before. All right, I said. Let's do a dinner. Invite whoever needs to hear it. Kira's posture changed. Hostess mode. She sat up straighter and reached for her phone like she'd been waiting for permission. Oh, I love that she said. We can make it a real reset. Family dinner. Everyone together. It'll show people we're united. Evan smiled, and for the first time since he arrived, it looked almost natural. A fresh start, he said. I nodded, like I believed it. Kira began typing names, scrolling contacts. Your sister, she asked without looking up. Your cousin, the neighbors from brunch, invite them, I said. Invite anyone you've already talked to. Evan flinched at that, just a flicker. He recovered fast. Sure, he said. The more the better. No secrets. I lifted my mug, sipped, kept my face still. Then I stood, walked into the living room, and adjusted one thing on the shelf. One small camera lens angled a little higher, just enough to catch the table and the seat they had pushed aside. I turned on the audio recorder with a single press and felt my pulse slow down. Behind me, I heard Kira's voice carrying from the kitchen. Bright, sweet, public. Hi, I'm calling with good news, she said. Rowan is ready to move forward, and we're having everyone over for dinner. I went back to the table, sat down, and smiled at Evan as his phone started buzzing with replies. I listened. I nodded. I asked questions. It took less than 2 days for them to forget I was a person. Evan started using my money like a calendar item. He said monthly inflow, the way he used to say rent due. He'd sit at my table, tap his phone, and talk without looking up. If we streamline your inflow, he said one morning, we can set automatic transfers. Keep you from overspending. Keep things clean. Clean. Like my life was a mess he'd been sent to fix. Kira followed behind him, polishing the story. This house is too big for one person, she said while opening cabinets she didn't own. It's wasteful. You could sell. Downsize. Be practical. Her eyes kept landing on the living room windows, the backyard, the quiet street. She wasn't seeing comfort. She was seeing a number. I kept my voice calm. I kept my face neutral. How much would you need? I asked like I was curious. Not cornered, Evan didn't hesitate. He loved numbers when he thought they belonged to him. Enough to get ahead, he said. A bridge. 6 months. Maybe a year. Then it's fine. A bridge to what I asked. Kira answered fast. Stability, she said. A reset. We've had setbacks. Setbacks. That word came up again and again. It meant debt. It meant panic. It meant them sleeping at night only because they believed my money was within reach. Evan started making calls from my living room. He didn't lower his voice anymore. He talked to someone about pressure and timelines and keeping Mom cooperative. Once he laughed and said she's finally being reasonable. I heard it all. The recorder heard it all. After each conversation, I went to the sink and washed my mug. Same chipped cup. Same motion. Soap. Rinse. Dry. My stomach turned, but my hands got steadier every time, like my body was learning a new habit. One afternoon, my phone buzzed. A text from my cousin Laurel. Evan says you might not be okay. Is everything all right? I stared at the screen for a long moment. Not okay. There it was. The pivot. The backup plan. If they couldn't bully me into signing, they'd paint me as incapable. They'd make it sound like love. They'd bring witnesses who had only heard Evan's version. I typed back with a steady thumb. I'm fine. I'll explain soon. Please come to dinner. I set the phone down and breathed in through my nose, out through my mouth. My chest felt tight, but the tightness had changed. It wasn't fear anymore. It was focus. That night, Kira set out grocery lists like she was planning a holiday. She told Evan to invite a few more people just in case. Evan agreed, proud of himself, like the crowd would crown him. I waited until they went to bed. I walked into the living room. I checked the camera angle. I checked the recorder. I stood by the table and looked at the corner where my chair had been shoved. Then I took out my phone and sent one short message to Maris Holt. Tomorrow, bring the documents. I didn't add anything else because I didn't need to. In the kitchen, the refrigerator hummed under Kira's rules, and I poured myself coffee as the house settled into silence before the doorbell started ringing the next evening. I opened the front door and let them file in. Coats, voices, familiar faces pretending they hadn't laughed at brunch. Laurel hugged me too long, like she was checking for bruises she couldn't see. 2 neighbors brought dessert. Evan's old high school friend showed up with a grin and a story. And then a man I didn't know stepped in behind them. Crisp shirt, polished shoes, eyes that measured everything. Mom Evans said, loud, cheerful, performing. Look who stopped by. Just a quick hello. A quick hello with business cologne. Kira floated through the room, taking plates, assigning seats, smiling like she was hosting her own victory party. Evan guided people toward the table like he was a politician working a room. He saved the head seat for himself. My chair stayed in the corner where they'd shoved it half hidden like a spare. I didn't move it yet. I poured coffee. I set my mug down. I breathed slow. The house felt crowded, but the noise didn't touch me the way it used to. I could feel the recorder running. I could feel the camera watching. I could feel my own spine holding. Evan clinked his spoon against a glass. Thanks for coming, he said. This means a lot. Family's been complicated. But I'm here because I care about my mom. I want to protect her. Kira nodded at the right moments. She touched Evan's arm like she was proud of him. She looked around the table and said, we all need to support Rowan now. Big changes can make people vulnerable. Vulnerable. There it was again. The word they used to turn control into concern. Evan slid a stack of papers across the table toward me. Nothing scary, he said, smiling at everyone. Just a simple plan. A budget. Some safeguards. Mom signs and we can all relax. Every eye shifted to my hands. Kira leaned in, pen, ready like a nurse offering medicine. It's the responsible thing, she murmured. I didn't argue. I didn't flinch. I stood up, picked up my coffee mug, and carried it to the center of the table. The room tracked me like I was about to explode. I set the mug down beside a sealed folder. Then I looked toward the living room doorway. Maris. I said not loud, just clear. Please. Maris Holt walked in with a slim briefcase and a calm face. She didn't greet the room like a guest. She nodded once like she was here for work because she was. I'm Rowan's attorney, she said. This won't take long. Kira's smile froze. Evan's posture stiffened. The man in the crisp shirt sat back, suddenly interested in his water glass. Maris opened the folder. She laid out documents with steady hands. Rowan's assets are held in a trust, she said. Major transfers require dual authorization. Attempts to coerce or claim incapacity trigger a legal firewall. Evan blinked fast. That's Maris kept going. We also have a record of an unauthorized request for account access flagged by the bank today. And we have recordings of statements made in this home regarding handling deposits and pivoting to incapacity. The air changed. First confusion, then stillness. then a kind of shame that moved across faces like a shadow. Laurel's mouth parted. One neighbor looked down at their plate. The crisp shirt man stopped tapping his foot. Maris turned a page. If coercion continues, Rowan is within her rights to seek a protective order. That's not a threat. It's the legal reality. I reached for my chair. The one they'd pushed aside. I pulled it out and slid into it without looking at Evan. My hands didn't shake. Evan's lips opened. A sound tried to come out. Nothing landed. He glanced around the table, waiting for someone to rescue the story. But the room stayed quiet. And in that quiet, I watched him realize he was alone with his own words. Laurel stood up first. "Evan," she said, voice tight, "is this true?" No one laughed now. No one looked at me like I was the problem. Faces shifted. Eyes moved from the documents to Evan's hands. Someone cleared their throat and couldn't finish the sound. Evan tried to smile his way out of it. He lifted his palms like he was calming a room. "You're misunderstanding," he began. "This isn't—" Maris didn't interrupt. She didn't need to. The pages on the table did the work. Kira snapped fast. "Rowan set this up," she said. Sharp and loud. "She's always been like this. She twists things. She makes herself the victim." I looked at Kira and felt the sting behind my eyes rise hot and immediate, but I didn't let it spill. I held my breath for 1 second, then released it slow. The crisp shirt man pushed back his chair. He didn't announce it. He didn't say goodbye. He just stood, took his coat and left, like he'd suddenly remembered he had somewhere else to be. The front door clicked behind him. That sound landed harder than any insult. A neighbor I'd known for years leaned toward me. "Rowan," she said quietly, not meeting my eyes. "I'm sorry about the brunch. I shouldn't have laughed." I nodded once. It was all I could manage without breaking. Evan's face tightened. He tracked the man leaving, tracked the neighbor apologizing, tracked Laurel's stare. He was watching his stage collapse plank by plank. Maris gathered her papers into a neat stack. "Here are the boundaries," she said, calm as a clock. "You will vacate this residence. You will not request access to Rowan's accounts. Any communication regarding finances goes through counsel. If you continue to pressure or threaten, we will escalate." Kira's mouth opened, then shut. Even she understood what escalate meant when it came from someone who didn't raise her voice. People started standing. Coats pulled on. Plates left half-finished. No one wanted to be caught in the aftershock. Evan waited until the room thinned. When the last neighbor stepped onto the porch, he followed me into the hallway like a boy chasing a parent who had stopped being soft. "Mom," he said low. "Please." "Not here," I said. He swallowed. "We need help. We're in trouble." "With money," I said. With everything he corrected and his voice cracked on the last word. Kira hovered behind him, eyes hard, jaw set. But she didn't speak. I turned my house key in my palm until the metal warmed my skin. I counted to 4 in my head. I kept my voice even. "No cash," I said. "No access. No moving back in. If you want a path, it's therapy. It's accountability. It's paying back what you've taken from anyone else, and it's years of consistent behavior. You don't get my accounts as a reward for saying sorry." Evan stared at the floor like it might open. "How did you even know?" he whispered. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was simple. "Someone at the bank talked," I said. A loose comment. That's all it took. His eyes lifted. For the first time, he looked scared in a way that wasn't performative. I watched the fear settle on him and felt something shift in me, too. Less pain, more clarity. When the house finally emptied, I locked the door behind them, called a locksmith, and carried my chair back to its place at the table as the night went quiet around me. I woke before the sun and didn't reach for my phone. The house held its breath. No rolling suitcases in the hall. No marker squeaking on paper. No footsteps pacing like someone was timing my movements. Just the low hum of the refrigerator and the soft click of the heater turning on. I walked into the kitchen barefoot. The refrigerator door was clean. No rules, no underlines, no commands pretending to be care. I stood there for a moment anyway, letting my eyes rest on the empty space where those papers had been like my body needed proof that it was over. I set a mug on the counter. The chipped one. The same one I carried through all of it. I filled the kettle, switched it on, and waited without rushing. I didn't think about Evan's face. I didn't think about Kira's voice. I didn't think about the way my neighbors had looked at me when coffee soaked through my blouse. I just listened to the water heat. A sealed envelope sat on the table where Maris had left it last night, my name printed neatly on the front. I slid a finger under the flap, opened it, and read the letter once. Then again. Trust protections active. Dual authorization confirmed. No account changes without in-person verification and legal trigger notice. Plain language. Clean boundaries. Something solid I could hold without shaking. I placed the letter back down. I didn't frame it. I didn't tuck it away like a trophy. I just left it there, face up like a fact. I pulled out my chair. My chair. The one they had pushed into the corner like it didn't matter. The wood made a quiet scrape against the floor, a normal sound, the kind of sound that used to mean nothing. I sat down and felt the table under my palms. Cool. Steady. Mine. The kettle clicked off. I poured the hot water into the coffee maker. I measured the grounds. I watched the first dark stream drip into the pot. Then I lifted the pot and tipped it into my mug. The first pour didn't spill. Not one drop ran down the side. Not one tremor betrayed me. My hand was steady, and the steadiness wasn't forced. It was just there. I breathed in. Coffee. Warm. Familiar. I breathed out and felt space open in my chest, like a door that had been stuck for years finally swung free. My phone buzzed once on the table. A single message lit the screen. I'm sorry. No speech. No excuses. No request. Just 2 words that didn't erase what happened, but at least didn't insult the truth. I looked at it. I didn't pick it up. I didn't type back. Not yet. I took one slow sip. I let the heat settle in my mouth. I set the mug down with care. Outside, the first light slid across the tabletop, and I let it move without following it.